Network. This is Openline.
Well, good evening and welcome to Openline. I'm Chuck Long, your host for the next hour. Excited to be with you this hour. One of my favorite times to be doing Openline is with our guest, Kevin Kennedy, special guest. We are talking Ask an Attorney from the Kennedy Law Firm, one of the most successful law firms in the state of Tennessee. Every time Kevin is on, I say, I get an education, you get an education. It's your chance to be able to ask those legal questions that you sit at home thinking, if only I could ask that intelligent attorney. Well, it's exactly what we have for the next hour. Kevin Kennedy, always a pleasure to see you, buddy.
My pleasure, Chuck. We're now in the new year.
Yes, we are.
I'm thinking about 2020, and one thing you can always count on, the law is always changing.
Oh, yeah.
But one of the things that never changes is it's based on honesty and fairness and justice, and every man has a sense of what's right and wrong in their heart.
Well, you know, one of the things, Kevin, and we found, you know, month after month, every time you're here, is that people often, it's just that they don't know what to ask. They don't know what to do. A situation comes up and it's like, where do I turn? What do I do? Who do I ask?
One of the first things that a law student will learn when they get to the law school is to identify the issues. If you didn't even know that was an issue. And so over the years, I think as I've analyzed legal careers, the guy that can identify the issue, now we can, well, I didn't even know that was a problem.
Right.
I never knew that could happen. And I hear that all the time from lawyers. Well, I didn't know that. So lawyers make new law by developing these theories. And why does the law? Because men's ideas and values change, then they change in the legislature. And remember, all the time we're getting new judges. One guy may interpret it this way, another judge interprets it that way. So again, how do you get a grip? At best, we have the theory in the law. The facts are what they are, but how do we evaluate that? And so I love this show. And one of the things even I thought about coming in, Chuck does a great job, and we talked about helping people. The truth is, all those that get to hear it, tell your children. I don't think that we've ever made that any more clear than we have in January of 2020. Tell your co-workers, why do you want to do this? You better check on this. Have you checked on your insurance? Is that an exclusion under your policy? Well, I'd never even thought about that. So, great advice. Listen, learn, and share.
And you know, one of the things too, Kevin, I jotted down literally from the last time that you were here. We get such a broad range of questions, and I certainly understand it. And you know, while you ask the question, you think it pertains specifically to you. What happens is, and we hear this over and over and over, it pertains to so many people, so many people listening. Here was just a brief list of what we heard from last time you were here: personal injury, medical malpractice, police misconduct, employment discrimination, car accidents, truck accidents. We were talking too recently. Now, the scooters, things like that. Wow. Something happened.
Come in.
Absolutely.
Right. And you know, when we have these creative crimes, you've got to have a creative crime solver. And you know, whose agenda? One thing is, how do we interpret this? Whose side are we on? And if there is abuse, which everyone here is going to admit, some days people are going to try to take advantage of you. How's the best way to stop that? Is to educate yourself.
That's exactly right. And one of the things too, and I know so many people say, I didn't realize that. But if something does happen to you, and you were talking whether it's with an officer of the law, one of the things that you have to be careful about is what you say.
Absolutely.
Do you say anything? Some people think they have to start talking. They don't.
Yes. You know, I never will forget a detective said, you know, Kevin, that guy, you got to me too quick, because that guy was a talker. And just in a few minutes, he would have told us everything. We see them every day, and the daddies come in, their sons have been charged. And I said, well, how did this happen? Daddy said, I told him not to talk. And so they say that 95% of the people in jail, incarcerated in the penitentiary, is there because they talk. It works in criminal cases and civil cases. So many times, smart men don't say a lot. They listen, then they'll get some advice, they'll make a plan, and then they can address it.
That's right. But you do need to know what to do when you run up against a situation like that. So
yes.
If you have those questions, those comments this evening, the phone number is right there on your screen. It's 737-PLUS. Of course, that's 737-7587. If you have a question for yourself, maybe someone in your family, maybe a friend, you've been discussing some things, you're wondering who to turn to for advice, this is a great way to do it tonight. We're going to kick off our lines with Elaine. Elaine, we're glad that you're joining us this evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin? Can you hear us, Elaine?
Yes, hello.
Okay,
hello.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Yeah, I got a charge, and I don't know how to go about this. They gave me a legal lawyer, a public defender.
Yes.
And she said she had no time to do anything for me. And I was in court the other day, and how do I go about this?
Well, here's one of the things in the state of Tennessee, and in being an American, you have a right to counsel. If you can't afford counsel, then the court will appoint you. So many of them are brilliant. Why? Because that's all they do is criminal law. But again, let's look at the reality of the facts. 300 cases, and then tomorrow there's more cases, and the next day. So a person can only have so much time. So it's just the reality of the system. And so I love to hear their ideas. Always remember, we can ask the question, who, what, when, where, and how. You get the answers to that, that will help you. Another idea is to take somebody with you. You know, this information comes to us so fast. If it was Chuck and I, at least both of us, when we had just a minimum amount of time to talk, when we got in the car, we could say, did you understand this? Did you? I wish we had asked that. And sometimes Chuck said, well, what about this? Well, that's all I needed. So that's some good advice for you when you try to make an appointment and go back to the public defender, discuss your case, and present some of your evidence to them.
Okay, good to know. So, Elaine, thanks for kicking us off this evening. I believe Tony, is that right, Taylor? Okay, Tony is on the line with us right now. Tony, good evening. We're glad that you're calling in on Open Line tonight. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Yes, sir. I have a question about the video cameras that the police are going to be involved with soon.
Yes.
And I was wondering, in a roundabout way, whenever, I watch a lot of YouTube and I see a lot of things that the police do wrong to people, like IDing, passengers and, unconstitutional stuff.
Yes.
That has been deemed. And I was wondering if that is going to change the way that the lawyers work in Tennessee, because I know they wouldn't want to be really making the police mad, but is there actually constitutional lawyers to handle those type of things? And will y'all have to be refreshing up on your stuff?
Here's the real world.
Thanks.
The most of the lawyers that are going to get involved with taking criminal cases, their agenda is to protect that client. They're sworn to it, they're brainwashed, and if they didn't want that, they would entertain another type law. So, so many of them, what we say at the law firm, we're in it to win it. So what does that really mean? We want to analyze if they have miscalculated, they've written the warrant wrong, we're moving to dismiss. You say, well, you've hurt their feelings. This is the real world. They've got skilled DAs, they're skilled lawyers, the judge is going to interpret it, and I know Kevin Kennedy, if my family were charged, I want to get the best we can get, and I want to get out of this situation. Number two, now I heard the judge, I was talking with him today. He said, Kevin, you cannot believe these quality of cameras that the police have. It's because everybody said, well, it's going to be fuzzy. You couldn't make it out. The new cameras are crystal clear. And I'll tell you one more. I was involved with an operation. They came in to see me, and they had a camera on the tip of their boot. That camera was just like this television camera, as clear as a bell. The audio is as clear as you're hearing Chuck and I. And I said, wow. So as they become sophisticated, don't worry, the creative lawyers are being very sophisticated too. If it is an illegal search, we hear it every week. One guy said, I went outside to talk to the police and they just opened my home up and went right on in. I never invited them, never gave them any permission. They didn't have a search warrant. Well, if we've got some evidence, got some witnesses, we're going to move to dismiss all that, suppress anything they found. That's our constitutional right. Does that offend some people? They shouldn't be in the business because they know reality is a judge is going to have to uphold the Constitution. If he doesn't, you appeal it to another court. Somewhere along the line, they're going to uphold it, no doubt.
All right. Thanks for that question, Tony. We appreciate it. We're going back to the lines right now, and looks like Joe is on the line with us. Joe, good evening. Do you have a question or a comment for Kevin?
Good evening. I have a comment and a question. Back in 1984, I was a senior in high school in Florida, and we were down in Winter Park area, and I had spit on the sidewalk, and an officer approached me and let me know that spitting on the sidewalk was against the law in Florida. And being from Philadelphia, I had never heard of that. And my question is I actually studied criminal justice, which I still think is an oxymoron. But when I got into college, I studied criminal justice in '86 at college. Ignorance of the law is really irrelevant because you can't be ignorant of the law. But ignorance of the fact, is that still a defense? And I'd like to hear the comments on that.
Okay. Ignorance of the law, people say, well, I didn't know that I can get a DUI by allowing just riding with someone who's intoxicated. Well, guess what? When they charge you, when so many people find out? When they are charged, because that's why they're not watching Ask the Attorney. They're not learning. They're not trying to figure out. And Google is a good opportunity. Now, the facts. There's nothing better than a lawyer like myself is how are we going to explain the facts? Remember, if I came in and there was a murder right there, what else? That we found them, they are dead. Well, how do you interpret it? Of course, the state has to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. What can you say, Mr. Lawyer? Well, was it suicide and Chuck and I walked up? If so, we committed no crime. Was it self-defense? Again, we have a right to protect our person and those around us. There's a host of them. And if the police couldn't prove it, guess what? Move for dismissal.
Okay, good to know. So we appreciate that call, Joe. One of the things, too, that I find is people often think they've got unlimited time to try a case, to come to you with it, but that's really not the truth.
Now more than ever, the insurance companies have become so aggressive because they know how to save money. The wreck happens, they call you tomorrow, and they want a recorded statement. Is it in your best interest? No. They're being paid to ask you questions. How far were you from this? What time did it happen? Because they're trying to box you in to a statement. And if you just said, well, I've hired a lawyer. The other thing is we're seeing massive cases. People are getting hammered. You have a car wreck, you blow it off. I didn't get hurt in the car wreck. The next day, you're in tremendous pain. You know what the insurance lawyer's going to say? Kevin, really? The guy didn't go in an ambulance. You're trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. You're constantly always evaluating and always protecting.
All right. Once again, great to know. If you do have a question or a comment, Kevin Kennedy from the Kennedy Law Firm, in business for over 35 years. Large staff. You guys handle such a broad range of cases. I would say you've heard it all. So
we've heard it all. And the truth is, Chuck, it blows my mind. Every day something comes in, you say, this has got to be a book novel because this is not reality. And then we'll go back to the other lawyers. I said, I want to get your opinion. And they'll say, Kevin, you're lying. I said, no, I'm not lying. Come in here with me. You're not going to believe this. And here we go.
Yep. All right. We have a lot of you on the line with us right now. So please stay on the line. We will get to those calls. We do need to take a short break. But when we come back, more Open Line with Kevin Kennedy. So come on back with us.